The chamber was an architectural marvel, a testament to humanity's progress since joining the Galactic Federation. Towering ceilings of crystalline panels reflected the soft glow of Earth's delegates seated in a semicircle, their expressions tense. Captain Jacob Tanner, in his Press Space Corps uniform, stood at the room's center, every detail of his posture exuding calm confidence despite the turmoil threatening to unravel humanity's fragile place in the galaxy. A hologram of General Tarvos flickered to life, larger than necessary, a deliberate intimidation tactic. The Draec's crimson scales gleamed, his black ceremonial armor bristling with spikes that looked as much a part of him as his condescending sneer. "Humans," Tarvos drawled, his guttural voice amplified to fill the chamber. "You are unworthy of your position in this alliance. You have contributed nothing but words to our wars. Your cowardice staining the very fabric of this council." Tanner's jaw tightened. He had expected the provocation, but hearing it delivered with such disdain lit a quiet fire in him. He stepped forward, his boots clicking against the polished floor, and clasped his hands behind his back. "Humanity chooses peace when others choose war, General. If that offends your sensibilities, perhaps it speaks more to your inflexibility than our cowardice." A ripple of murmurs passed through the chamber, but Tarvos's grin only widened. "You dress fear as wisdom, Captain Tanner. Let us see how far your so-called wisdom carries you. I challenge your species to prove its worth." He leaned closer to the projection device, his sharp teeth bared. "One warrior against one of my own." Silence fell like a hammer. Tanner felt the weight of the ultimatum settle across the room. Humanity had no shortage of capable soldiers, but the Draec's warriors were bred for battle. Their physiology, training, and instinct surpassed anything humanity could muster. It wasn't a challenge, it was a death sentence. "Are you suggesting gladiatorial combat?" Ambassador David Mitchell broke the silence, his tone incredulous. The elder statesman's face was pale, his fingers gripping the edges of the council table as if to anchor himself. Tarvos laughed, a low, rumbling sound. "Call it what you will, Ambassador. The arena will reveal what your kind truly is, craven or capable." The hologram flickered out, leaving the council bathed in the muted light of their deliberations. Mitchell turned to Tanner, his expression a mix of fear and frustration. "We cannot agree to this. We'll be humiliated. Worse, it will validate every insult they've thrown at us." Tanner's gaze swept the room, studying the assembled leaders. Men who had led humanity through unification and expansion, now hesitant before a bully's taunt. He could feel the tide of defeat rising, a collective resignation, settling in like a cold fog. "We'll accept," Tanner said, his voice cutting through the tension. Mitchell froze mid-protest. "Jacob, you can't." "Think about it," Tanner interrupted, his tone measured but firm. "They expect us to play by their rules, to send someone into the arena for a brutish brawl. But our strength isn't in matching their barbarism. It's in strategy, adaptability, and precision. Let's remind them of that." Mitchell frowned. "And who do you propose to send?" "The Draec's warrior won't be some ceremonial figure. It'll be their deadliest fighter." Tanner's lips curved into a faint smile. "I know exactly who to send." The briefing room aboard the Concorde Dawn was stark and utilitarian, its steel walls lined with monitors displaying the latest intelligence on the Draec. Lieutenant Marcus Kane leaned back in his chair, boots propped casually on the table, a sharp contrast to the tension simmering around him. He was lean, almost wiry, with an easy smirk that often made superiors question his professionalism until they saw him shoot. "So," Kane drawled, tapping a finger on the table, "let me get this straight. A bunch of lizards call us cowards, and the best response we've got is to send one guy? Me." Tanner stood at the head of the room, arms crossed. "You don't sound convinced." "Oh, I'm convinced," Kane said, his smirk widening. "Convinced this is either the dumbest idea or the smartest thing I've ever heard. You're betting the entire reputation of humanity on one shot." "I'm betting on you," Tanner corrected. "The Draec see combat as a spectacle of strength and brutality. They'll expect us to fight on their terms, but that's not how we win. You'll have full discretion to operate as you see fit. No rules, just results. Kane whistled low, dropping his boots to the floor. You're giving me free rein? You must really want to see what I can do. Tanner ignored the comment, stepping closer to the table. This isn't just about the fight. It's about sending a message. Humanity doesn't fight to prove itself. We fight to win. Kane's smirk faded, replaced by a rare glimmer of seriousness. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. All right, Captain. When do I leave? The Draic homeworld of Ivex Prime was as hostile as its inhabitants, its jagged landscape scorched under twin suns. Kane adjusted his visor, scanning the terrain with a practiced eye. Beside him, Sergeant Logan Price was all business, monitoring data streams on a portable console. Corporal Ethan Cross, the tech specialist, busied himself with deploying drones that would relay intel back to their team. You know, Cross muttered, sending a small camouflage unit into the dirt. I'm starting to think this whole thing's insane. They're expecting a fight, and we're treating it like a tactical exercise. That's because it is, Kane replied, checking the calibration on his sniper rifle. The weapon was a sleek, custom-built masterpiece, its energy cells humming faintly. The moment we play by their rules, we lose. So, we don't. Price glanced up from his console. And if they call it dishonorable, then they can take it up with the scoreboard, Kane said, slinging the rifle over his shoulder. We're not here to make friends. We're here to make a point. As the trio prepared to move out, a deep, resonant horn echoed across the horizon, signaling the start of the duel. Kane tilted his head toward the sound, his expression unreadable. Time to show them what a coward can do. He stepped forward, the arena looming in the distance, and for a moment, the weight of humanity's reputation rested squarely on his shoulders. Then he smiled, a sharp, predatory grin that spoke of confidence born from years of honing his craft. It was time to prove the galaxy wrong. The sky above the arena on Ivex Prime was a patchwork of searing orange and deep violet, the twin suns hanging low like burning eyes. Thousands of Draic warriors filled the massive amphitheater carved into the planet's jagged cliffs, their guttural cheers a thunderous wave that reverberated across the stone. The air was heavy with the scent of burning oil and the metallic tang of ozone, a fitting backdrop for the spectacle about to unfold. Marcus Kane stood alone at the edge of the battlefield, the soles of his boots crunching against the gravel-like terrain. His rifle rested on his back, a lean and silent extension of himself, while his dark visor shielded his eyes from the oppressive glare. Around his neck hung a small comm unit, through which Price's voice filtered with calm precision. Wind patterns are shifting. Gusts are clocking 15 clicks north to south, Price said, his tone clinical. Got it, Kane replied, his voice low, almost bored. His fingers flexed briefly at his side, betraying a tension he wouldn't let show. The Draic champion entered the arena with a sound like thunderclaps. Krogath, a behemoth of scaled muscle, towered nearly 9 feet tall, his crimson skin gleaming beneath the jagged edges of his powered armor. The crowd roared as Krogath lifted his plasma axe high, the weapon humming with deadly energy. He turned to Kane, his lips pulling back to reveal rows of serrated teeth. This is your champion? Krogath sneered, his voice a guttural boom that carried effortlessly across the arena. A fragile creature armed with coward's tools? I will enjoy breaking you. Kane didn't respond. He simply tilted his head slightly, as if sizing Krogath up, then reached for the rifle on his back. The motion was deliberate, almost casual, a deliberate contrast to the towering warrior's theatrics. The silence of his response carried more weight than any retort could. High above the arena, Corporal Cross monitored his array of drones, his fingers flying across a console. Visual feeds are up, terrain mapped. You've got 3 viable vantage points, but the far ridge has the best cover. Appreciate the options, Kane muttered, already moving toward the ridge without hesitation. His steps were light, his presence a whisper against the chaos of the arena. The Draic spectators jeered, throwing insults and taunts, but Kane tuned them out. Every second counted. From his position on the ridge, Kane took a knee and leveled his rifle. The scope flickered to life, its display overlaying wind speed, temperature, and target distance in a flurry of data. Through the lens, Krogatha's massive form filled the view, his armor's energy field glowing faintly. Price's voice cut in. Target's power source is built into the chest plate, secondary shield emitters on his shoulders and thighs. You will need at least 3 clean shots to disable him. Kane exhaled slowly. 3 shots it is. Krogath roared, his axe blazing as he charged forward. The ground seemed to quake beneath his weight, and the crowd erupted in deafening cheers. Kane tracked his movement, the reticle settling on the faintly glowing shield emitter on Krogatha's right shoulder. The rifle's discharge was sharp and precise, a single pulse of blue energy that cut through the roar of the arena. Krogath staggered as the shot connected, sparks cascading from the damaged emitter. He snarled, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the arena for the source of the attack. "Nice hit," Cross said, "but you've got his attention now." "I noticed," Kane replied, shifting his aim. Krogath turned toward the ridge, his plasma axe cleaving through the air as he charged. Kane fired again, this time striking the left shoulder emitter. The shield faltered, flickering like a dying star. Krogatha's roar shook the arena as he hurled his axe toward the ridge. The weapon spun like a deadly comet, carving through stone and soil. Kane ducked to the side just as the axe obliterated the ridge's edge, debris raining down around him. He rolled to his feet, already moving to another position. "He's faster than he looks," Kane muttered, sprinting along the edge of the arena. "Cross, divert a drone to draw his attention." "On it," Cross replied. One of the drones buzzed into the arena, projecting a holographic decoy of Kane in the opposite direction. Krogath took the bait, barreling toward the illusion with feral intensity. From his new vantage point, Kane steadied his rifle and lined up the final shot. This time, he aimed for the chest plate, where the faint hum of Krogatha's power core pulsed beneath the armor. The trigger pull was smooth, the shot slicing through the air and striking true. The impact was immediate. Krogatha's armor sparked violently, his shield collapsing in a cascade of crackling energy. He stumbled, his massive frame swaying under the weight of his own momentum. The crowd fell silent, the cheers replaced by a stunned hush. Kane descended from the ridge, his rifle slung over his shoulder. Krogath knelt in the dirt, his breathing labored but his gaze defiant. As Kane approached, the Draic champion growled low, his teeth bared. "Finish it, human," Krogath spat. "Prove your courage." Kane stopped a few feet away, his expression unreadable. Slowly, he crouched down to meet Krogatha's gaze. "Courage isn't about killing. It's about knowing when not to." He extended a hand, the gesture simple but loaded with meaning. For a moment, Krogath stared at the offered hand, his expression wavering between confusion and anger. Then, with a low rumble, he clasped it, his grip firm and heavy. The arena erupted into chaos, the Draic crowd divided between outrage and begrudging respect. Kane helped Krogath to his feet, his voice low but firm. "Tell your people, humanity doesn't need to prove itself with blood. We prove it with victory." As Kane stepped back, Krogath studied him for a long moment before nodding once. "Perhaps your kind is not as weak as I believed," he rumbled. Price's voice crackled in Kane's earpiece. "Mission accomplished. You're making friends out there." "Just doing my job," Kane replied, walking toward the edge of the arena as the Draic warriors watched in silence. The weight of their gazes followed him, but he didn't look back. The duel was over, but the true battle, the battle for humanity's place in the galaxy, was just beginning. The council chamber was silent, the weight of recent events hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Captain Jacob Tanner stood at the center, his posture rigid but his expression calm. The room's luminescent walls cast a pale glow across the faces of the galactic delegates, each one watching him with a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and grudging respect. At the far end of the chamber, General Tarvos loomed, his crimson-scaled face betraying no emotion. Beside Tanner, Marcus Kane leaned casually against the polished table, his rifle slung across his back. His relaxed demeanor was a stark contrast to the tension in the room, but his sharp eyes darted across the delegates, cataloging their reactions. His job was done, but the stakes were far from settled. This wasn't just about his victory in the arena. It was about humanity's standing in the galaxy. Tarvos broke the silence, his voice a low growl that seemed to vibrate through the chamber. "The human has surprised us," he admitted, his tone begrudging. "Your champion displayed cunning and precision. But is this a reflection of your species, or merely an anomaly?" Tanner stepped forward, his voice steady. "Kane's success wasn't luck or a fluke, General. It was a demonstration of what humanity values: strategy, adaptability, and discipline. Traits we bring to this council and to the galaxy as a whole." A murmur rippled through the room. Ambassador Aulic, a representative of the Osarian collective with translucent, jelly-like skin, raised a tentacled appendage in objection. "One victory does not erase years of perceived inaction. Humanity has avoided direct involvement in the conflicts that plague this galaxy. How do we trust that you will contribute when it matters?" Tanner's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone measured. "Humanity has contributed in ways that don't make headlines. While others wage war, we've focused on innovation, diplomacy, and exploration. Our scientific advances have been shared freely. Our mediators have resolved disputes that could have escalated into wars. Just because we don't march soldiers onto every battlefield doesn't mean we aren't pulling our weight." Aulic waved his appendage dismissively, but another voice spoke up. It was High Consul Vorak of the Elanthary, whose crystalline form shimmered in the chamber's light. "Captain Tanner is correct. Humanity's contributions to medicine, energy, and interstellar navigation have been significant. However, the question remains: are they prepared to defend the ideals of this council, should the need arise?" Tanner opened his mouth to respond, but Kane cut in, his voice casual but carrying an edge. "Look, we're not here to prove we're the biggest, baddest species around. That's not our style. But if you're asking whether we'll stand up when it matters, you just saw the answer. One man against your so-called best, and we didn't just fight. We outthought him." Tarvos' gaze narrowed, but he said nothing. Tanner turned to the delegates, his voice rising with conviction. The arena wasn't just a fight. It was a statement. Humanity doesn't seek conflict, but when forced into it, we fight to win, not with brute force, but with intelligence and precision. We've proven we belong here. Now it's time for this council to decide if it values what we bring to the table. The chamber fell into a tense silence. Tanner could feel the weight of their deliberations, the unspoken calculations happening behind every inscrutable face. Humanity's place in the galaxy hung by a thread, and he knew the decision would shape the future of his species. Finally, Tarvos stepped forward, his heavy footsteps echoing through the chamber. He stopped a few paces from Tanner, his towering frame casting a shadow over the human captain. "You have surprised me, Captain Tanner. I did not expect your species to demonstrate such ingenuity. It is not the way of my people, but I cannot deny its effectiveness." He turned, addressing the council. "I withdraw my objection to humanity's place among us. They have proven themselves, at least for now." A collective murmur swept through the room, a mixture of surprise and reluctant agreement. High Consul Vorak nodded, her crystalline form pulsing faintly. "Then it is decided. Humanity will retain its position on this council, with the understanding that their contributions will extend beyond words and innovations." Tanner inclined his head, his relief carefully masked. "You will find we're more than capable, High Consul." The session adjourned, the delegates rising and filing out of the chamber. As the room emptied, Kane leaned closer to Tanner, his smirk returning. "So, does this mean we're officially not cowards?" Tanner allowed himself a faint smile. It means we bought ourselves time, but we're not done proving ourselves. Kane slung his rifle over his shoulder, his tone light, but with an undercurrent of steel. Good. I'm just getting started. They exited the chamber together, stepping into the bright light of the Council's central plaza. Around them, the architecture of the galactic hub soared toward the sky, a testament to cooperation and unity. But for Tanner and Kane, it was also a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Think they'll ever see us as equals? Kane asked, his gaze sweeping the bustling plaza. Not yet, Tanner admitted, but they will. We'll show them one step at a time. Kane chuckled, his confidence unshaken. Well, if it comes down to another fight, just let me know. I like the odds. As they walked away, the faint hum of the council chamber faded behind them, replaced by the steady rhythm of their footsteps. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt like humanity had taken control of its own destiny, and that was worth fighting for.